Bill Carroll of Zenny62 Media, continuing our series working through all 32 teams, the cap situation, their draft, and of course, eventually talking a little bit about their undrafted free agent signing period. And the Buccaneers are a team that's clearly built to win now. In fact, some might say to win a couple of years ago, which of course they did. And one of the architects is Jason Licht. And he's one of those guys that sort of did the old-fashioned way. We talked about some of the younger GMs that kind of came from alternate sources. He sort of came up the old-fashioned way, sort of like guys like Ted Thompson did back in the day. He was the guy that played ball himself at Nebraska officially, or first, and then after a couple of years transferred to Nebraska Wesleyan. He'd played linebacker, also played some guard, and finished up playing D-tackle. He got his start soon thereafter as a assistant, that making essentially no money like everybody else, a scouting assistant for the Dolphins, then eventually jumped over to becoming an offensive assistant quality control guy in 96. In 97, he moved to working for NFS, National Football Scouting. They're part of the people that put together things like the Combine and sort of the big list that a lot of NFL teams use to start narrowing down who they want to scout. Jumped from there to the Panthers scouting department and was there for a couple of years. Eventually went from there to the Patriots by 99 and became a national scout for them by 2001. Then eventually became an assistant director of player personnel and then held that until he jumped back with his old boss Tom Hackett with the Eagles, who was the vice president of player personnel. He became the assistant director of player personnel. And when Hackett became GM, he became vice president of player personnel. And then, as often happens, when your boss gets fired, you get fired. But he wasn't out of work for long. Next time he pops up with the Cardinals, becomes a personnel executive there, then goes back to the Patriots as director of pro personnel in 2009. He was up for the Bears job, GM job in 2012 when Jerry Angelo was fired. He didn't get it. Phil Emery did. But the next time he gets promoted, of course, he stays with the Cardinals. And then before he goes to the Cardinals and leaves them after 2013 and 2014 season, he becomes the Buccaneers GM. And, of course, helps that team to get out from under some bad contracts. And, of course, to draft some really good players and obviously sign really good players in free agency. In their draft, they picked up Logan Hall, a guy who can play 3, 4-eye, 5, and even a little bit of 7 out of Houston, position versatility. Goedeke from a guard who can probably also play some tackle from Central Michigan, once again, position versatility. And Rachaad White's one of my favorite picks, not only by them, but of anybody. To get them at pick 91, I think he might end up being one of the best running backs in the whole entire class. I'm less excited about Cade Otton, but I think he's going to be a solid number 2 tight end. At a Washington guy that does a little bit of everything well, not amazing at any one thing. They got yet another punter. Oh, not another punter, but I mean, I guess the other punter, or the sandwich between Stout and Ariza, the two more well-known punters. You had Jake Camarda from Georgia, really good athlete. I think he ran 4.56, something like that, crazy, 4.6, something like that. The combine. Then I think one of their best picks, together with the Rachaad White pick, is Zyon McCollum, big, strong, fast, smart, tough corner who could probably play some safety from Sam Houston State. Really good athlete, elite level athlete. When you get out with that kind of size and, 4.41 to 4.39, depending on what day you catch him, speed. I'm less excited about the Kieft pick from Minnesota. They did lose some tight ends. Obviously O.J. Howard and Gronk aren't coming back. I just don't know. I won't be surprised if this guy gets beaten out by an undrafted free agent we'll talk about in a second. Andre Anthony is another guy who has some position versatility. I'm not blown away by his tape, but they're just betting on him being better, I guess, at the next level because he was all right, but nothing special in my mind in his days at LSU. But, well, nonetheless, there he is. They got him. Then, they managed to, I think it's some really, really nice pieces to go with that. So going through some of the picks they picked up, some of the players they picked up in undrafted free agency, I really am a big fan of Beise from River Falls. So yes, you're talking, NAIA, and that means a fairly low level of competition. But he's a big level of talent. A little undersized at 6'2", 7'8", 247, but he ran a 4'7", 440, which is the least impressive of his numbers. 36-inch vertical, 10'1", I believe, in the broad. All the other numbers are really good. Like a 7'1", 3-cone and a short shuttle. I have 4'2" something, I believe. But I mean, really good athletic testing. Undersized, and obviously played a low-level competition, but I think he makes the team, and I think he contributes. Devin Tompkins is tiny. I'm always excited when I find a guy who's shorter than I am. Came in at 5'6" and 7/8", I believe, and 167 pounds, but very fast. Or he's a little higher, 183, I think, maybe. But very fast, very quick, very explosive, terrific special teams guy, and he may not stay a lot of time at a wide receiver, but he's actually a good wide receiver, but I don't think they see him as a receiver. Then you got Jarrah Stearns, who's once again Stearns is 183 pounds, right, 167. Stearns is like 5'7" and 3/8", 183. He's a 4'6" guy. None of his testing numbers are going to blow you away, except he has, I think, a decent short shuttle. But he's a classic slot receiver. Shared DNA with the Patriots, right? He's just a darker-skinned version of the classic Patriot slot receiver. A little smaller, too, but quick, smart, great hands, has a shot to make the team, but an outside shot because they're pretty deep at receiver. Nolan Turner, I think, makes the team. A really athletic, productive safety from Clemson, who, frankly, should have been drafted, I think. I think Olakunie Fatukasi has a shot from Rutgers as a special teams guy. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a couple of corners. One, I got to see play in high school in person, a kid who's a Chicago kid, Don Gardner, South Dakota State. Height, weight, speed kind of prospect, runs in the low 4.4s, 6'1" or almost 6'1", and 189 pounds. And then a big corner in Kyler McMichael, more like a 4.52 athlete, but over 6 feet tall, 208 pounds, and once again, a guy that some people see as a safety. So I think a couple of those guys make the team and contribute. And then their cap situation is a fascinating one, right? As we talked about, certain teams decide to, for lack of a way of putting it, kick the can down the road, I think is the term that you use. They have a cap situation that's not dire at the moment, right? And of course, it helps to some extent that they've moved on from Gronkowski, and they have some other sort of dead to dying cap situation players. But the way the team is constructed, they can probably win now and maybe even keep it together for another year after this. And then at that point, pretty much the whole thing falls apart. But if you get a couple Super Bowls out of it, I think you still call that a good day's work. And like I mentioned, Jason Licht is a really, 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 really good general manager. So my belief and assumption is that he's already putting together the plan for the future. And if indeed Kyle Trask turns out to be what they believe he is, they have pieces around him, young pieces, if they've drafted well, and I think they have. Even as they have to turn over this current talent cycle, they should be good going forward. So that's the Bucs, and I'm going to pick up with the next team next.